All right, everyone. We start off today talking about the Cop City riot, the Atlanta invasion of what's called Cop City. It's a police staging area outside of Atlanta, Georgia. That was the other day. It was quite a scene, actually. There's plenty of footage of it from both the sky and on the ground, which is nice. I mean, if you like watching things burn and people throw rocks, just wait till Antifa shows up. You know, whip out your phone. You have plenty of shit to do, assuming that you don't get attacked by the lynch mob. About 150 Antifa members, give or take a few dozen, decided to partake in this presumptively pre-planned incident. So this was not a bunch of people that just happened to be in the same area on the street and say, hey, you want to go burn a construction site? Yeah, and then everyone agrees it's cool, and then, they march like a bunch of school children on a field trip. Now, they got together beforehand. They were talking about it, by the way, on social media prior. And one of the arrests is the most interesting part here, forcing a response by the Southern Poverty Law Center, a very funny response at that. One of their lawyers, which they're calling a legal observer, went with the Antifa rioters. Now, he was detained. The presumption is that he was therefore participating as opposed to simply sitting there with a camera trying to document, are the cops using the proper level of force as they watch a group of people commit literal domestic terrorism. The cops would have been justified, by the way, since they were being physically attacked. They would have been justified to use lethal force. They didn't bother to do so, though, and ended up arresting several dozen of these individuals. Their arrests will presumably take place in the coming days or weeks. The hope is that you don't have a revolving door prosecution system involved here. So the person comes in, they drop the charges. The person comes in, they severely reduce the charges. They barely even bother to book them. They say, you want a plea deal? Yeah, okay, 30 days suspended sentence for, minor assault or something like that. I have a feeling in the end that will be the case for a lot of these individuals. The SPLC, again, lying about this legal observer, came out and said, well, we stand behind our man. And there is one quote here as part of their response that I'm going to read verbatim because it's just completely off the chain. This is dovetailed in with their response. Okay, so Antifa has gone, a bunch of commies have gotten together, pre-planned, as part of what is literally domestic terrorism at that threshold. Although I do not believe in designating Antifa a terroristic organization, I believe in designating them a criminal gang, because they're not organized enough, other than events like this, to be considered an actual terrorist organization. Most of them are brain-dead commies from gated communities. They're not exactly creating IEDs most of the time, although you do have some incidents where leftoids get to that level. Here's their cope here. The SPLC added within their statement, the SPLC has and will continue to urge the de-escalation of violence and police use of force against black, brown, and indigenous communities, working in partnership with these communities to dismantle white supremacy, strengthen intersectional movements, and advance the human rights of all people. Is that what was going on at this particular training site that was arsoned apart? No, they were attacking like bulldozers and shit. And physically attacking police officers, not all of which, as you can see, are white. The SPLC's lawyer that was detained appears to be white as well. He's present as a legal observer on behalf of the National Lawyers Guild, according to the SPLC. Now, although trespass would apply, if he was just sitting there recording things to make sure that the police didn't actually use any force and just sat there fiddling their thumbs while Antifa rioters decided to destroy public property and probably damage private property in the process as well, while hurling explosives, etc., etc., I don't think that he would have been detained once he told the cops, hey, I'm a legal observer. I'm not the one throwing the rocks. I'm here to make sure that you do your job and do it right. I don't think that he would be in detention right now. I doubt that he'd be facing domestic terrorism charges. Now, it could be that in the end he can show that he really was just being a legal observer. But isn't it a little bit odd that the SPLC has a legal observer there at all, considering the fact that they are totes not involved with Antifa in any meaningful way? Totally separate groups. The SPLC pretends to do the sort of legal activism thing. Antifa, they prefer to beat old ladies or burn schools to the ground or attack black-owned businesses in the ghetto when their Starbucks order was too expensive. How did this legal observer come about the knowledge that this was going to be a thing? Because this, again, involves a significant amount of organization that supposedly Antifa doesn't have because it doesn't exist. That's another cope that we've heard time and time again. Antifa's not a movement. It's just people who don't like fascism. And they happen to have numerous social media accounts where they coordinate their totally individual dislike for fascism. Fascism such as construction equipment. By the way, I thought all these groups cared about climate change. Do you realize how many greenhouse gases are emitted when you burn down the construction shed? And heavy metals and shit like that. My goodness, you just burned a bulldozer, all the fuel going up in smoke and black smoke furling through the air and stuff. You'd think that these people, why don't you just get a coal roller in an SUV or something like that for what it's worth? You're kind of when you start building Molotov cocktails and shit like that and burning chunks of cities to the ground for usually unknown reasons. Occasionally we know, and it's something that's topical that wouldn't anger the average person. Like, hey, Brett Kavanaugh exists. Oh my God, quick, let's burn half of D.C. You're releasing a lot of pollutants doing that, but at the same time you'll stand toe-to-toe and arm in arm with like Extinction Rebellion and similar shit groups like that. Very interesting. So it's kind of the SPLC riot. I guess they were aware of it. Again, the legal observer wouldn't have been called in unless they knew that something was going to go down in which there'd be a police response. But this isn't a situation where a legal observer were sent to a pre-existing riot, which is usually the case. Okay, people have gone up in arms in this, in Selma, there's 1,000 people marching there, there's a heavy cop presence. We think that we'll send a couple of lawyers there to make sure that everything's okay. No, this person was literally traveling with them prior to there being any actual event at all. That makes it a little bit different for legal purposes and shows that the SPLC, or at least this member of the SPLC, was made acutely aware before. And now, as an accredited lawyer, if you're told that a crime is going to be in progress at some near future date, wouldn't you face potential repercussions in your job as an attorney if you do not notify law enforcement? Because I'm pretty sure that you're not a priest taking confession at the time. I'm pretty sure that you have a responsibility. Like if somebody were to tell me on social media, hey, me and some other clankers are going to get together and go bomb a football field or something, I would be potentially legally culpable if I didn't contact law enforcement. Why would this fruitcake be held to a different standard? Hopefully he is held to that standard and disbarred, and the SPLC dragged as the relic of importance that it is. That's about all. Peace out.